Tes. 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 Audible? Ladies and gentlemen, OG will say that consistency right now are being too stubborn. Right now, what people need are real practical change and real practical progress in order for our constituents are able to be appealed and know that our position as PSI is able to seek change in the future, thus are prominent to seek the protection that we need in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen. So I think this debate fiats the ability of us going to be accepted by the coalition. So I don't want opposition to say that the coalition will be not accepting us, thus will not gain any significant change in the progress of that discussion, ladies and gentlemen. I'll prove to you two main arguments. One, why this coalition brings more support of us for future fights and current fights. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the best case scenario of team opposition. I'm going to say that consistency right now can still be achieved in our side, but if we are going to trade it off, it's going to be okay at the end of the day. First of all, let's talk about future fights. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the ideal world for PSI is to get change for all of our protection, such as minority policies, gender policies, and anti-corruption, etc., etc. The problem if we become opposition, ladies and gentlemen, is three main faults. A, if we become the opposition, we will not have any direct capability to create discussions in the parliament, ladies and gentlemen, in the current status quo. So likely, in our side, in their side, ladies and gentlemen, in the current status quo, we are not having any direct discussions towards the policy-making programs that is currently happening in the current status quo. Notice that the coalition right now, without the existence of PSI, doesn't have any discussion that try to cater towards the needs of minority, cater the needs of gender, cater the needs of anti-corruption policies, ladies and gentlemen. So right now, without us, these kinds of discussions will lead to the most populist thing that happens in the current status quo, which is Islamic parties, Islamic discussions, which is going to be very toxic because it's not going to be representative towards our needs, ladies and gentlemen. So in comparative, in our side, we can have direct access towards the parliament discussion. It's going to be important because we are going to be seen as someone that is having the necessary position to have that discussion, ladies and gentlemen. So in comparative, they might say that in the current status quo, to make discussion, you don't need direct access towards parliament, ladies and gentlemen. We can see, but that ability to make that progress is not significant. Why? Because no parliament parties wants to represent us, ladies and gentlemen. So even if they want to say we can voice our voice outside, it's not going to be significant because they are afraid to voice out our saying in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen. But even if they want to say that our ability to make discussion in parliament is going to be very hard because our voices will be polarized, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be okay. Why? Because it is only temporal, ladies and gentlemen. It's okay for us at the very first years in parliament to achieve something that is lower. Why? Because it's a step-by-step process, ladies and gentlemen. Through time, if we achieve that progress, at least we show to them that we are actually something that is a force to be reckoned with at the very first beginning, ladies and gentlemen. We show to them that our forces is something that is very important, and we have constituency in the current status quo. Right now, we are seeing as a party that is very humorous and doesn't have any constituency and representation towards important things in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is important for us to make that discussion. But secondly, notice that why being an opposition is going to be harmful, because in the current status quo, the strategy that we are going to use as an opposition is trying to constantly saying that the current governance is bad and not representative toward our voices. Notice that the strategy of Prabowo-Sandi will try to constantly demonize our parties, gentlemen. They will constantly say that our ability of our voices is something that is wrong and that is something something that is not good, ladies and gentlemen. This already happened in all presidential era, ladies and gentlemen. The moment that we become an opposition, they will try their best to say that your constituency is bad and our constituency is good, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think being an opposition right now is very good. Especially, notice that the characterization of PSI, ladies and gentlemen. We are peripheral, we are small. Being an opposition is not something that is going to be good because our power is not that significant yet, ladies and gentlemen. This is not like Golkar, this is not like Gerindra, this is not like Partai Berkarya, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't think your ability to be an opposition is going to be good. But even if, ladies and gentlemen, opposition want to say we will become opposition, we can still be having work together with other opposition. No, ladies and gentlemen, because our other parties right now that become opposition have different values with us, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to say let's coalition with Jokowi's parties Gerindra after the election, ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be good because Jokowi's party already shown a very rejection towards our positive liberal values at the very first place, gentlemen. The fact that Jokowi picked Maruf Amin to begin with, that is violating the principle of our side, ladies and gentlemen. But lastly, let's talk about segmentation of voters, gentlemen. I think that right now the voters that is very prominent to being swayed by our side, ladies and gentlemen, is voters that right now wanting practical change, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's important right now in the current status quo, even if that we fail to make marginal change in parliament, to at least appease our voters, to show that we are able to engage to current discussions and we are able to engage to the current governmental agenda, ladies and gentlemen. It is showing that there is actually progress and that we are actually having change in the current status quo. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I think at the very first argument, it's already shown to you that our future fights is not only in trying to make direct change, but also to make the narrative that we are actually having these kinds of progress, which is engaging towards these kinds of opposition. Second argument, why using this coalition is principally not will not totally compromise our values. Notice that in the current status quo, what are the political trajectory of Prabowo, ladies and gentlemen? In the current status quo, the political trajectory of Prabowo is always wanting to see what is the weaknesses of Jokowi's administration, ladies and gentlemen. In the current status quo, notice that Jokowi's administration always play on liberals in the past, ladies and gentlemen. But right now, they always praise on the Islamic votes, etc., etc. So most likely, wanting to make a change, Prabowo will try to make that comparative advantage and try to see what is the weakness of Jokowi, which is the young voters. The fact that right now, these kinds of Prabowo always use strategy to find youth participation, always want to use rallies to use these kinds of college students in order to engage with them, ladies and gentlemen. So I think that the fact that PSI always want youth participation, the political trajectory of Prabowo in trying to recruit these kinds of young people and trying to use these kinds of principle of PSI will still happen, ladies and gentlemen. But even if, I think the principle of a party is not only to be stubborn, but always want to seek an alternative that can seek better change for their party, ladies and gentlemen. So I think it's a trade-off that can be accepted. Ladies and gentlemen, I think OG explained will gain better change and can gain betterment for our party and our constituents. Vote for team opening government.
The speakers on time 7 minutes and 31 seconds. To open the case of opposition bench, I call leader of opposition, Ms. Dia, please.
Before I proceed to my points of argumentations, let me give 3 responses upon the case that has been built by the government bench. First of all, they stated to us they are going to be the coalitions of the Prabowo-Sandi if if Prabowo-Sandi win the elections in 2019. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't see any clear explanations coming from the opening government in order for them to explain how when they become the coalition, how when they are becoming the coalitions to the Prabowo and Sandi after they are being elected, then PSI can still stick to that original intent, which is to voice out the voice of the minority. They are only arguing to you about how when they become the coalition, there is going to be an easier fights in the future, but they don't explain how that easier fights is going to happen under the proposal, since we think that when you become the coalition, you are going to lose your original intent, which is to voice out the voice of minority. Why is that so? Because you're going to stick to the vision and mission that is created by the president and also the vice president if they are elected. So we think that the original intent of the PSI will directly lose, and they are going to stick to the elected president and also the vice president. Second response is that they're stating to you how PSI is still become a small and also a new party. Ladies and gentlemen, it's true that PSI is a new and also still a small party, but we see in the status quo, we think that PSI has the progressive is actually progressive in terms of followers. We think we can see how in the social media there are a lot of followers that would like to voice for the rights of minority, for example, for women and also other minority. So we think that the followers of the PSI, even if in the status quo it's still very lack, but we think the status quo is actually progressive in order for this PSI to gain followers, in order for them in the future can have easier way in order to pass their policy in the parliament. Third responses is that they stated to us how they are going to create a better change in the future, therefore they need PSI to become the coalition. But ladies and gentlemen, in order for you to create this better change, you need to stand as oppositions of this government. If you don't like this government because they never voice out the minority during their campaign, then we need to stand as oppositions in order for us to create the change inside of the government itself. So we think that in order for you to still voice out the voice of this minority, you need to stick to your original intent by becoming the oppositions of this elected president and also vice president. Now, proceeding to my points of argumentations, first of all, I'm going to talk about how PSI is being picturized in society and how they're going to gain more followers. Second of all, we're going to talk about how PSI will still able to voice the minority even if they become the oppositions in the parliament. Now, proceeding to my first point of argumentations, I'm going to talk about how PSI is picturized in the society and how they are going to gain followers. We have understood this characteristic of PSI is that they are becoming the new party to voice out the minority, and in Indonesia they are the first and the only party to voice this out. We think that PSI is becoming the new hope for the minority in the current status quo. But we also can see how in the status quo happened, for example in the social media, that there are a lot of people and also accounts that started to voice out the voice of this minority. So we think that there is a progressive coming from inside of the society, even though this problem towards the minority such as discrimination is also still there. So we think that in order for the PSI to gain followers, they are going to gain the followers very easy because people in the status quo is already progressive to voice it out anyway. So even if the followers are still very lacking power in the status quo, but we think because they are progressive, this PSI is also going to gain followers even if they still become the opponents of the elected presidents and also vice presidents. Now, proceeding to my second point of argumentation, so I'm going, yes?
PSI's rhetoric of defending every single actions of Jokowi is basically considered hypocritical because Jokowi itself stepped PSI in the back by electing a conservative as his main one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about being the oppositions of Prabowo-Sandi as the elected president and also vice president. That doesn't mean that we fully support the other candidates, right? We think here is that PSI should always stand as the oppositions and should always stand to voice out the minority rights that has happened in the status quo right now. That doesn't mean when we become the oppositions of this Prabowo-Sandi, then we're going to support all the regulations or all the policies that's going to be created by other candidates. Now, proceeding to my second point of argumentations, I'm going to talk about how PSI will still able to voice out the minority even if they are becoming the opponents in the parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, in the context when they already gain enough followers in the status quo, and we understand that in order for a policy to be passed in the parliament, it needs more followers or it needs more people and also other parties in order to support that that policy, right? And we have to understand how in the context, PSI already gained enough and also progressive followers to begin with. So we think that, therefore, even if they become the opposition of the parliament, it's going to be easy for them to pass the policy that's going to voice the rights of this minority. See, because in the very beginning, they already have the progressive followers, for example. So we think that we also are going to get people to support more to PSI in order for them to pass their policy, because society in the status quo have begun to think that there is discrimination and also violation towards the rights of this minority. So we think it's really clear how the society is very progressive. Therefore, we think that PSI will still be able to voice out the minority rights even if they still become the opponents of the Prabowo-Sandi. We also think that when PSI become the opponents of the Prabowo-Sandi, it shows how they are becoming consistent because since the campaign, that Prabowo-Sandi never campaigned about the rights of the minority, and PSI has stated that they don't want to follow Prabowo-Sandi, but after the election, then they are trying to follow Prabowo-Sandi. We think that it shows how this party, as a new party, don't show the consistency. Then when they don't show this consistency, they are going to lose all the followers, because people will start to think that they don't have the consistency to become a party. Therefore, it is very vital for the PSI as a new party, in order for them to gain followers, they first need to show their consistency in the parliament, which is to show to people that they are there to voice the minority rights. Therefore, they should stand into whoever the president is elected, they still have to voice this minority rights anyway. So what we are trying to use that, first of all, how PSI is picturized in the society, that they become the only hope that society have right now, and also they are still going to gain followers since it is already progressed in the status quo. And second of all, we have explained to you how PSI was able to voice out the voice of the minority, even if they become the coalition in the Prabowo-Sandi's year. After all these explanations, we back to Prabowo.
The speakers can talk 7 minutes and 16 seconds.
Now I call the Deputy Prime Minister, Ms. Vira, please.
Tes. Tes. Tes, tes, tes. Oh, shit. Opposition dismissed the characterization of PSI that they are new and they are the party who brings something taboo or something that not major or popular to society, ladies and gentlemen. So their argument cannot just directly simplify and assume that if they keep voicing out their consistency upon their ideals and their ideology, then they can be able to engage in political arena and become a powerful party in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We characterize to you how PSI within their current characterization cannot be able to be that powerful, and why instead of it is better for you to engage to Prabowo-Sandi in the end of the day. So my extension will be talking about how inconsistency is something normal in politics, and second of all, why contribution that PSI will make to Prabowo-Sandi will always becoming the consideration of them, right? That I'll explain to you why that Prabowo will be chosen to in 2024, and why it will be a better mechanism and strategy for PSI to be taken in status quo. So first extension, right? Why being inconsistent inside of status quo is normal and why politics are like that. So ladies and gentlemen, we believe that inside of status quo, we have parties who before, like for example, having a popular narrative that they support anti-corruption or they're the one who support the development of rural areas, but right now they are changing their stances and their narrative. For example, in 2009, for example, in the election of, in 2009 election, the major popular narrative that we have is how we are anti-corruption. But the 2014 narrative of politics interest is how you want to develop the rural areas. So the changing and the dynamicity of how the interest and the popular opinion that society has right now in status quo is also can be changing, ladies and gentlemen. That is why, in the end of the day, parties, in order for you to be able to be popular and for you to be able to be elected by the society and your members, should also follow the dynamicity that we have right now in status quo, right? Because the purpose in the end of the day that you want to have is that you want to have a practical benefit, right? They say that the grey voters will see that how this party is inconsistent. But ladies and gentlemen, grey voters are also uncertain in their side of the house. The only way for you to make them believe and trust on your party and keep following you if how you show them that you have the practical benefit that you will have in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. That is why parties should also follow the development of dynamics of the politics in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So they also talking about member interest, right? How member interest will no longer can be able to be a cater if, for example, this party siding to the opposition, right? We believe, ladies and gentlemen, as a party, we need practical benefit that we have to show to our followers and members. The moment that the members does not see outcome or chance of changing, or at least a small move coming from the party itself, they will start questioning us. Do we a party that will change, that will bring changing towards the party and the members itself, or not, ladies and gentlemen? That is why, if the moment that we do not give practical benefit to our members, they will see that we don't have the power and we don't have the political impact, and we do not at least try to realize the interest and the dream of our members, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, in the end of the day, as a party, for you to still standing up and being inside of status quo, you also need to follow dynamics of the narrative and how society interest on you, and how you also should have the accountability towards your members. And it can only be achieved if you show the movement and the progressivity of your party, ladies and gentlemen. We told you that if PSI do not side to the Prabowo-Sandi, they will never have that kind of political impact and power instead of status quo, like how Firman have already explained to you. So second extension, right? This extension is on the assumption that Prabowo will be chosen in 2024 election in the next election year, right? So why Prabowo will most likely be chosen? Because we see in the political arena right now and the political arena right now, there will be no enemy or someone that can challenge Prabowo like how Jokowi had right now. They will no longer have someone that powerful, right? Because Prabowo is so powerful, the fact that he is always joining the election, and the fact that he also have the basis of voters. We don't think that someone like Jokowi will also exist into 20 and 24 elections. So in the end of the day, Prabowo will also be chosen because he also has the interest to coming again in the next election, right? He lose so much, so he still wants to come in. So why PSI now should leaning to them, right? Because let's see the political spectrum, right? Why changing coalition? Why a changing coalition right now is something good? Because if you do not change it right now, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be seen as party who is pragmatic just because they win. You are siding to people who won the election and getting close to them just after they got the success. Why it is bad? Because society will see you as someone who are not belong to the winning and the process of it. You are a party that does not contribute to the success of Prabowo and Sandi, and just a party who wants to feel the benefit of their hard work. So the thing is that a party who cannot be who siding after they win the election is not a good party, right? Because you cannot easily because in the process of it, if you do not siding to them, because at least in Sadusko, if you are citing to them, you can show that the consideration of you citing to them is something that you have been considering at least, because society and members can see that your rationalization upon things that the party has to prioritize the direct political engagement, that you can rationally calculate that you will not be able to survive in the aftermath. So getting into the discussion of citing Prabowo-Sandi and show that it is something hard to be decided and how you actually want to prioritize the member and party's interest that you are now is small, you bring something new and taboo, so the only way for you to survive is to have a coalition to someone that at least can open the chance for you, and it's for the society and members' importance, right? So why also in the end of the day, in other parties will also trust you if you're citing to them in the end of the day and compromises the value that can then that in the end of the day is also cannot be compromised. So the inconsistency and changing side in the aftermath of in the process of they can win is something bad, because other parties will not like it, right? Because you are citing to Prabowo and Sandi just because you see that they will also be chosen in the end of the day. So if you're citing right after they are chosen, you will be seen as someone who also wants to contribute to the future election that Sandi and Prabowo will have, ladies and gentlemen. So in the end of the day, you will be seen as party who contributes to the success of 2024 election. Why this is important? Because it is because you will see as this is something collective hard work of every individuals that PSI will do to Prabowo, right? So the future fight that you will have is also at least easier, because you will be seen as party who also contribute to the winning of the Prabowo itself, right? So in the end of the day, because you are a small party, the thing that you have to gain in right now status quo is the power and the party's trust and also your members' trust. Thank you.
The speakers can come 7 minutes and 33 seconds.
Now I call the deputy leader of the opposition, Mr. Aksa, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, member chair of this house, before I'm going to my substantive points of explanations, firstly, I want to rebut the statement that has been delivered by the opening government teams. They say PSI should stick to the dynamic. Ladies and gentlemen, as PSI, we're still going to follow the dynamic as the oppositions of the current presidents. We still can follow the dynamic even when become the opponent. When we choose to stick to our original intents, doesn't mean that we don't want to follow the narrative. And then the second rebuttals towards the opening government has stated that they said the coalitions is going to open the change for PSI to develop as big party. The coalitions doesn't have to be the coalitions with other party that since beginning has no sense intents. So let's move towards my points of extensions. Why we as the opening oppositions disagree with this motion that we are discussing today. The first point is what will happen if PSI join the coalitions of Prabowo-Sandi? The first of all, the things that we already know, they lost their original intents. Well, we know that PSI is still the new party and as the small party, ladies and gentlemen. And then we know that when the PSI join the coalitions of Prabowo-Sandi, they still cannot make decisions from the Prabowo-Sandi itself, ladies and gentlemen, because we know that they just a party and still new and small party itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then the second, what will happen if they are joined the coalition of Prabowo-Sandi? The voices of minorities peoples there's no representative of the voices of minorities people itself again, ladies and gentlemen. And then PSI And then we know that it is very bad for PSI to given a fake for the society before they are we are assuming that Prabowo-Sandi not join as selected as the president because they are very opposite with the Prabowo-Sandi coalition itself, ladies and gentlemen. And in comparison, if PSI keeps stance with the oppositions, PSI still has power to gain more the member of the PSI itself, ladies and gentlemen, because they have stance, and the stance of the PSI, it is very needed. It is the society needs of the stance of the PSI itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then yeah, we know that they will get so much support because of their consistency to support the minorities' voices, because of their consistency. If they keep as the oppositions, their intent can still voice well. Even if the government team stated that their voices cannot be voices into the government. Well, we know we can still believe that their voice can still voices the voices of minority can still voices into the parliamentary ways, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, and then the second points of arguments that it is showing that PSI has no stance. PSI as the party of we know that PSI as the party of that voices of minorities people. While we know that as long as Prabowo-Sandi campaign, they never voices of the sound of the minority itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then, as the new party, you need to show the existence of your party itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then, when you join the coalitions of your opposite coalitions, the society will lose trust by your party itself, ladies and gentlemen, because society or people before the Prabowo-Sandi chosen as the president, the people already picturized the image of PSI as the voice of the minorities itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then people will know that the PSI people will know that PSI will always support the voice of the minorities itself. But when the PSI join the coalitions of the Prabowo-Sandi, people will think that, and people will know that PSI just need the power or the positions of in the Prabowo-Sandi institution, in the Prabowo-Sandi coalitions, ladies and gentlemen. And it is very bad for the new parties, and the small parties to build the picture, the good image for the society itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then we know that the member of the PSI, there are so many young people or the youth from the youth representative from the young people, ladies and gentlemen. And then if the PSI join the coalitions of the Prabowo, society will lose beliefness toward the youth party itself. Because we know that people already know that youth, the characterism of youth, they have a stance, they have a power, they will have consistency of what they want to say, ladies and gentlemen. But if the PSI as the representative of the youth party, when they want to join the coalitions of Prabowo-Sandi, people the picturize the image of the youth, or the spirit of youth about the consistency, the society will lose, will lose beliefness towards the youth itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why it is very important to the PSI, even if the Prabowo-Sandi chosen as a president and the vice president, is very important to the PSI as a new party, as a new and still small party, to keep as their opposition, to build the new picturizing of what the original intent of what they bring before, ladies and gentlemen. So we as the opening opposition team still keep disagree with this motion that we are discussing today, that assuming Prabowo-Sandi win 2019 elections as PSI side to Prabowo-Sandi coalition rather than becoming opposition. For all the statement, we are going back to oppose. Thank you.
The speakers can have 6 minutes and 49 seconds.
To continue the case of government bench, I call Member of Government, Mr. Kenneth, please.
Mic.
Oh, boleh. Trying to ally with a lost political coalition or political alliance is not a good strategy. It is a suicide pact. But before that, let me first fill in the gaps of what has been missing from the characterizations provided by both of the opening side of the House. First of all, I would like to characterize you on the nature of the Prabowo-Sandi coalition itself. Right? First of all, we do of course know that the nature of the Prabowo-Sandi is now dominated by mostly conservative political parties and conservative voters, right? But it's not the case exactly. But we believe that it is not something. It's not inherent to what Prabowo actually believes, right? In fact, if we actually judge from the background of Prabowo himself, he's basically an ex-New Order regime which is basically very hostile to religious institutions. He's also coming from a very business-oriented family. He's a descendant of Suminto Jawaharikusumo, somewhat of a Chinese businessman who also do not like the rhetoric coming from the right wing in this country, right? And therefore, we believe that Prabowo is basically a party politician. He does not actually believe in what he says. In fact, we believe that I'm going to put my argument later that he's going to turn on his religious voters, and it is why, therefore, PSD should seize this opportunity to actually begin coping up with the new regime. Second of all, I would like to clarify on the nature of the main political base of PSD, right? Basically, the young people. Like, these young people are very, very pragmatic. They are also very, very large because of the demographic borders of Indonesia, and they do not like, they don't really know anything about political affiliations, right? But they do like policy soundbites. If Prabowo, for example, suddenly elected, suddenly take a lot of young politicians into his party, like there's a strong probability that these young voters are going to flip suddenly into the Prabowo camp if he did so. And further of all, I would also like to warn you about the political process in Indonesia, in which case that rhetoric and alliance in Indonesia is not a permanent thing. In fact, with time, political alliances and rhetoric also changes, and you can see something that is very, very different from what is normally the political norm today. Remember Megawati? He is used to be Prabowo's running mate, right? So therefore, we believe that it's going, Prabowo is not exactly ideologically fixed, but we can turn him back to our side and then make use of him in the future. Now, first of all, on my first argument, we believe that if we actually ally with Prabowo-Sandi in the coming election, if they are elected, it's going to be beneficial because PSD can attract quite a lot of young voters, right? We believe that it's a common fact, basically a common fact that Sandiaga Uno, who is basically Prabowo's running mate, is a very young politician, right? And he fits clearly with the democratic that PSD is supposed to cater to. But that it is in fact, we already see signs of the factions coming from PSD base of voters because of this very thing. When we see, because they this very thing, right? But the faction happens in two forms. First of all, it the faction to power for those who are less ideological discipline. And second of all, like you see a lot of young people who are supposed to be voting for PSD literally choose not to participate in the 2020 elections because they don't believe anymore in the message of PSD. Therefore, we believe that it is much more strategic for PSD to get an ally with Prabowo, who already shows signs of moderating in the current political parties. I mean, first of all, he chooses Sandiaga Uno, who is basically a non-Islamic cleric, who is basically quite moderate compared to some other people basically in this coalition, and we believe that in the future he's going to purge all his Islamists from his government because Prabowo is basically a authoritarian man. He doesn't like to be controlled, and basically the right wing, the conservative religious right wing, is basically people who want to use Prabowo for their own ends. Prabowo is an ex-military general. He's not someone that they want to be controlled by the people. He's going to purge them sooner or later. But that the input is going to leave a very large vacuum that PSE can fulfill in the next regime. Therefore, in terms of PSE survivability, it is better for us to actually join Prabowo-Sandi's coalition rather than actually staying in the Jokowi coalition as an opposition. Second of all, we believe that if we stay in the Jokowi coalition, that in the end we are going to be, the party is going to be dead. Right? Because currently, before even the election starts, Jokowi already betrayed us. Look at how he actually currently using conservative rhetoric to attract and appease conservative voters. Right? Look how he chose actually Maruf Amin as his running mate. Look how he betrayed us when he actually gives him names of candidates actually chosen as his running mate. Right? It is therefore we believe it is the current status quo. It already shown in the status quo that Jokowi does not have any intention to cater to liberals that are represented by PSE. In fact, he currently is showing signs of going in more conservative and more conservative. And if he goes to opposition, because he believes that, for example, that Sandiaga Uno is going to that Prabowo-Sandi won because of his optation of the winning coalition of religious right wingers. He is going to go after those religious right wingers, and we are going to be forsaken. We are going to relegate to the margins, and we are going to be a political fringe, and the progressive liberal movement of Indonesia represented by PSE is going to be dead, and it will be a very dark period for PSE if it actually survives. First of all, we believe that Prabowo's political affiliation is actually very fluid, right? Just as Jokowi can easily be swayed by given pragmatic considerations, so actually cater to conservative voters, we also believe that Prabowo can also be swayed to our side, right? We believe that democracy, because Prabowo is autonomous, that democracy is not exactly something that should fight. We should believe that we should fight more on gender equality, on free market, and also on representation. Remember that Jokowi literally betrayed Ahok and allowed religious conservative to literally. Remember that his running mate is the one who actually testified against a minority politician, right? Meanwhile, Prabowo has a significant time to cater to minority politicians, which is a proof that Prabowo is currently moderating the political discourse, right? And actually, like if we, for example, are going to Prabowo win, we are going to be able to get into his inner circles, right? If we are able to get into his inner circles, we are going to be able to actually influence him towards our own policies and what we are going to do. In other words, it's very cynical means, but it's very effective means to actually turn it into our side. Maybe we can conceive on the matter of democracy, but look, you can also be we can still fight for liberal values even though you are not in democracy. In fact, you are going to be able to survive liberal values because like the nature of populism of this coalition, which for a lot of them does not like conservative values, which are basically liberal. I mean, remember in the new order because gender equality and the minority representation better than what they were in the old order. So therefore, to the status quo consideration and also to many other political and pragmatic consideration, we believe that it is best for PSE to actually join Prabowo-Sandi's coalition rather than commit a suicide pact with Jokowi. Thank you very much.
The speakers will time 7 minutes and 38 seconds.
To continue the case of opposition bench, I call opposition member Mr. Istrawan. Please.
Susah. Oke. Tes. Am I audible? Ladies and gentlemen, we understand that in the end of the day, the main goal of you to be a political party is that to really able to channel the voice of people, ladies and gentlemen. But we don't think really merging with Prabowo-Sandi will really be a best way for you to really give impact in the society. That is why we think in the opposition team, we would like to make sure that we are a party which have principle. We have a strong principle. We don't have to change sides. We don't have to sacrifice the way we want to develop our country just because we cannot win one election, because there will be a possibility that we can win it in the next election, ladies and gentlemen. Before I'm coming to my arguments, I would like to deal with the case of the government. First, they say that they're afraid that by becoming an opposition, there will be less likely that they can open discussion in the public. But look, ladies and gentlemen, we are not living in a kind of authoritarian country. In the current status quo, opposition can easily make discussion in the public. You can see there is a lot of discussion made by the opposition in the current status quo. They also say that we will give less political impact when we join. We say we don't think that way. The moment you join with the Prabowo-Sandi, you will be seen as someone that changes sides, and you will also always be seen as someone who have less contribution to their winning in the election. So therefore, we say your idea will never be really appreciated by the Prabowo-Sandi, because also the fact that your idea is quite conflicting with Prabowo-Sandi, that I will later explain in my argument. But third of all, they say that there are bigger probability for Prabowo to win the election, so that's why we match with them. Look, you are living in a democracy where everything can change very fluid, so you cannot ever guarantee that you will be able to win next election, ladies and gentlemen. And also they say that this is not the interest of Prabowo, We say this is the interest of Prabowo, because Prabowo was from military, and he is really used to the kind of protectionism, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that this is the interest of Prabowo to really hear the majority. Coming to my arguments, I would like to give you two substantives in my speech. First is why it is actually bad for PSI as a new party to merge with, to side to the Prabowo-Sandi. And second of all, I would like to talk about the future of PSI. How PSI will be better without joining Prabowo-Sandi. First, why we think that why don't we think that it is actually wrong to really side it to Prabowo-Sandi? The lack of all previous speakers, they don't really explain how Prabowo view this country, and also how PSI really view this country. We say there are conflicting ideas between them. First, PSI want to prioritize the existence of minority. So there is like for example gender equality, and so on and so forth. It makes them frequently come in contact with in the mainstream Indonesian, because their idea is quite controversial for our society, ladies and gentlemen. No, thank you. So, and also the interest of Prabowo is actually he would like to win the voice of majority, because that is the only way he will win the election, ladies and gentlemen. So we think there is a conflict of ideas here. So it is principally wrong for you to really side to the Prabowo side. But let's say you are accepted to their coalition. Let's take them from their best. Let's say you are accepted, but we say it will be not effective for you to give impact for the society. Why? Because you will always be seen as a party which give less impact for their winning, ladies and so therefore all of your ideas will never be likely to be appreciated from them, and will never be likely to be prioritized by Prabowo-Sandi. Second of all, in the second layer of argument, how is the future of PSI will be better off when we don't merge with merge with Prabowo-Sandi. First, when you decide, look, Indonesian people are a kind of people that is actually can remember what you did in the past, ladies and gentlemen. Because there is also something that can be brought by your opponent in every election. When you cannot really stand with your principle, people will see you with as a party that is actually cannot as a confused party. You will only looking for chair in the parliament, ladies and gentlemen. It will make people less likely to vote you because it is less likely for them to really believe that you cannot really voicing up their voices, ladies and gentlemen. But second of all, why we think it is bad? Because the government also makes mistake. When it makes mistake, you also will be the one that blame, because that is the nature of the society. No matter what, when government create a wrong policy or the policy which society think doesn't really match with them, you all will be blamed. It doesn't matter if you don't vote with it, but when you are joining the government coalition, you will also be blamed. And this is why we think it's bad. And also, ladies and gentlemen, let's say that Prabowo-Sandi is actually able to give peace, to give prosperity to Indonesia. But we say it is actually still bad for you. Look, you will never going to be appreciated to this. Why? Because people will tend to look at Gerindra or PKS or all the parties that already contribute in the very beginning, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why we think that it is actually bad to really opt in. It is actually bad to really opt in the Prabowo-Sandi side. Then also it is very bad for the future of us as a new party. Therefore, we're very proud to oppose. Thank you.
The speaker spent now 7 minutes and 10 seconds.
To close the case of government bench, I call Government Whip Mr. Kenneth. Mr. John, please.
Tes. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to recognize that as we stand today, PSE cannot survive on the long term, ladies and gentlemen. You have to recognize that we have been disowned by our previous coalition, ladies and gentlemen, by the rejection of our party itself, ladies and gentlemen. They have made fun of us from our previous coalition, ladies and gentlemen, and therefore we stand only in our previous coalition, ladies and gentlemen, to be joked around about, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we believe here that we as PSE should stand forward, should come forward and join and actually be in Prabowo's coalition, ladies and gentlemen, because it will actually uphold our survival itself, ladies and gentlemen. This is the best way for survival. The opposition side of the House says that it is actually abandoning our principles, ladies and gentlemen. It is actually abandoning our principles, and we here say that no, we are not actually abandoning our principles, ladies and gentlemen. From the beginning of the debate, they've actually said that our original intent is to voice the sounds of minority itself, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot voice the sound of minorities itself if we do not join this coalition, ladies and gentlemen. Even if the opposition have mentioned, yes, they will. They can still pull support from the minorities, ladies and gentlemen. But to what extent? Our voter base actually focus on the practical changes of things, ladies and gentlemen, not what we talk about, ladies and gentlemen. And to not bring forward practical changes will bring minimum support. We have actual more support in Prabowo's coalition itself, ladies and gentlemen, where we can bring practical changes, and we are accepted by the coalition itself. The government side, the opposition side of the House also mentions that to not do this, there will be we have. To actually propose this, ladies and gentlemen, we have chance to directly, we have the direct capability to change things itself, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it might not be as substantial as what we might think, ladies and gentlemen, but the battle for minority rights, ladies and gentlemen, the battle for the things that PSE fight for is not a battle that will end as fast as possible, ladies and gentlemen. It is a battle of long-term, it is a long-term battle itself, ladies and gentlemen. The problem that PSE sees today is that we are being made a joke, ladies and gentlemen. We are not represented, ladies and gentlemen. The status quo is that in Prabowo's coalition, ladies and gentlemen, without us, they have no. The minorities are not being represented. They cannot achieve. We cannot achieve something like. We cannot achieve something without actually doing this, ladies and gentlemen. We have to actually push forward, that we have to actually show the people that we can actually bring changes, ladies and gentlemen, towards today's political climate itself, ladies and gentlemen. We have shown you that not only have Jokowi's coalition have already rejected us, but Prabowo actually subtly sides with us, ladies and gentlemen. How, ladies and gentlemen? He acknowledges the youth itself by actually voting his taking his vice president itself, ladies and gentlemen. And therefore, we see that this actually coincides with what PSE stands for today. What PSE stands for is like the importance of youth in politics itself, ladies and gentlemen. Whereas the previous coalition, the opposition side of the house, that they want to stay in, ladies and gentlemen, actually doesn't cater to our needs, actually makes fun of us ourselves, or actually makes fun of ourselves, of PSE itself, ladies and gentlemen. We here see that not only to not do this, we will lose our voter base. How, ladies and gentlemen, we will lose our voter base? Because we have told you from the beginning that we are a small party. We're still trying to grow, ladies and gentlemen, and it is in our best interest to side with the big ones, ladies and gentlemen. To not side with this, ladies and gentlemen, we will only be demonized, as the government team has mentioned, ladies and gentlemen. To not actually do this, the political strategy that people have today is to demonize the people they are not friends with, ladies and gentlemen, and to not actually side with the coalition that is already on top right now, ladies and gentlemen. We will be demonized, ladies and gentlemen, and therefore we will not reach our voter bases will be disrupted, ladies and gentlemen, and we will not be able to continue on, ladies and gentlemen, because as I have mentioned, we are still a small political party compared to our huge rivals, ladies and gentlemen. We campaign for minority rights, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the opposition side of the house said that even if we do not actually join this coalition, we will still be able to voice minority rights, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that is actually true. But what is more efficient? What is actually more efficient? Saying things outside of Parliament itself, ladies and gentlemen. But when we are actually in the coalition itself, ladies and gentlemen, we can bring these problems into light, ladies and gentlemen, right in front of the cabinets itself, ladies and gentlemen. It is our original intent to voice the people of the minority itself, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot actually voice this intent if we do not side with this coalition, because we do not get the platform we can bring this voice to, ladies and gentlemen. We say that yes, to stand on our ground, you can gain support, but minimal support, ladies and gentlemen, then the support we can get with practical changes when we join the coalition itself, ladies and gentlemen. Recognize that there are also some in PSE who actually sides with Prabowo and are actually keeping quiet, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we have told you that not only will we be able to win this, not only will we be able to stand as a party today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be able to stand as a party the next generation of elections, ladies and gentlemen. We here say that not side today will actually bring the demise of our party. How, ladies and gentlemen? Because we are already being demonized, we are already being small, we already lost our coalition in the we already lost our beginning coalition in the first place, and we have lost everything that we get. We have lost all platforms, all chances that we can voice the matters that we want to bring about the minority itself. So here we have said that not only is this the best way that PSE can guarantee its survival itself, ladies and gentlemen, but it is the best way that we can guarantee our survival, not today, but to the next future extents, ladies and gentlemen. By siding with Prabowo's coalition, ladies and gentlemen, we will not only bring practical change, which can also bring which can also bring more voter bases to us, ladies and gentlemen, because that is what our voter base wants: practical change, not something to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, we can already guarantee not only not guarantee one future victory, but various future victories in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. Please recognize that in here we say that not only should we stand with Prabowo's coalition, ladies and gentlemen, we should stand for the future of Indonesia itself, ladies and gentlemen, where we stand as the first political party to actually bring minority issues to the stand, ladies and gentlemen. And therefore, we beg you to propose. Thank you.
Speakers can count 7 minutes and 15 seconds.
Berapa?
To close the case of opposition bench, I call opposition whip Ms. Yunia, please.
Test. Ladies and gentlemen, the government team are trying to only focus on pursuing their populists by coalescing with Prabowo and Sandi, even when they cannot even guarantee that the policy that they want to propose you is actually going to work and PSI will get their populists. They forget the reason why they are as PSI exists and what issue that they have to focus on in order to get the real populists that they really want. So before I come to my argument, we would like to show you that PSI is the party, the one party that committed to their first purpose. So before I come to my argument, there are some rebuttals and comparison on this debate. First, the opening government said that they want to pursue a politic discussion in easiest way because coalition with Prabowo and Sandi will make them achieve their populist itself, ladies and gentlemen, but they forget their own purpose on standing for the minority itself. Second, they said that PSI need populist improving. The power is not great because PSI is new and small. That is the reason why to gain the populace itself by still supporting on the minority, because at the end of the day the society is the one who contribute the most. Second, they say that the opening opposition is veiled to tackle the point of information coming from closing government about Jokowi choosing Ma'ruf Amin and indirectly not supporting the minority. Just because, ladies and gentlemen, just because Jokowi choose Ma'ruf Amin doesn't mean that he is against the minority. It is because the majority think that he only focus on the minority and not considering the majority itself. That is the reason why he want to also focus and standing to the minority and without even forget the majority itself. Also, the closing government, they said that staying with Jokowi's side is going to make us die because Jokowi betrayed by not choosing others instead of Ma'ruf Amin. Just because he chose Ma'ruf Amin doesn't mean that he betrayed the minority. Focus on the act that Jokowi did, even if you are choosing others to prove that you are supporting the minority, but when you are actually acting and against them, it's useless. They also said, they said that it will be hard to pursue the minority right by not standing with the government because we cannot achieve it without doing this policy. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, you are standing with the minority, and at the end of the day, the society are the one who voted, and with you only focusing on the government itself, forgetting that the society is actually the part of the country, it's wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Let's come to my argument. Three actors involved in this debate: PSI, government, and the society, especially minority. Why it is better for development of PSI to become opposition of Prabowo and Sandi. First, the political view of PSI is minority issue, gender equality, anti-corruption.
minority issue, PSI is really concerned about minority issues because the fact that they want to stand with minority, we see in status quo, Prabowo-Sandi most likely to focus on the majority. PSI exists because they know that these minorities are also society, are also the part of our country. Then they have the same right with the majority. We have to consider the Bhinneka Tunggal Ika and what happened in the status quo. By coalescing with Prabowo-Sandi, PSI will first lose their aim or purpose to not simply wiping off the minority issue and pursue their purpose as PSI. Second, what it is better for development of PSI, because the moment when they are truly achieving their purpose, it will increase the populace of PSI itself. The society will believe and put their trust on PSI. They will finally say, they are still one party who really commitment to their priority. At the end of the day, the society are the one who gives advantage. They are the one who voted. They are the one who see. They are the one who know what parties is better and voted for them. In the future election, they might be contribute PSI in it. For example, you cannot easily say to get a populace of your party by only wanting and focusing on pursuing the discussion with the government. For the government, if Prabowo-Sandi become elected, because at the end of the day, without the support from the society, you will not be able to pursue it. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the exact minority's perspective to this? First, seeing the party who support this existential, seeing the party that they trust, because the society, are finally being supported by PSI, seeing the party that they expected to be with their side are betray them, they will disappointed and they will think that PSI is breaking their own purpose. No, thank you. Then the populace of PSI will decrease and making them hard to contribute and improving their parties. We need to consider the fact that PSI itself exists because they want to pursue all welfare and fairness toward the minority. You also cannot simply forget the minority just because the majority. Both are society, both are part of the country, and both have the same right as society. Even if PSI will discuss about political issues and improving their parties by coalescing with Prabowo and Sandi, the chance that they will gain their popularity and improving their party is small. Because when Prabowo-Sandi is elected, there are tons of parties who also want to do the same thing. The difference is PSI is a small party while other parties are already big, therefore the chance is not as big as they expected to be. Even if you want to say that the government is playing a big role on improving your party, you cannot simply wiping off that you are standing as a minority, as the represent of minority. You cannot simply forget the society who are going to support you at the end of the day. That is the reason why we strongly oppose this motion. Thank you.
Total is now 6 minutes and 19 seconds.
That was the end of this debate, and please give applause for all debaters, and debaters can shake hands each other. Thank you.